Welcome to a new episode of the Guru Perspective, and I'm your host, the Guru himself. I would like to talk about some things that happened in college football. It was actually a pretty good weekend. Finally, the week before was really bad, but it was setting up for this good ending right here, the Win of Your End contest. I'm still trying to see what's going to happen and how everything is going to be formatted once this championship weekend ends. A lot of good games is going to be coming up, and I will definitely be predicting those. But I want to get right into it, and I want to start off with the NCAA football weekend. I want to talk about the Week 14 recap. I want to start off with the Texas A&M game. I thought that one was going to be a good one. At least that's what I thought. Texas A&M wasn't prepared to play Texas, and at the same time, I had my co-host saying to me before he didn't think Texas A&M was a team that was really going to get to the big dance due to the fact that he felt like they gave up too much on defense. They gave up like 30-point games against teams that they shouldn't have, one of them being Arkansas. Then it's just the actual fact that they barely won recently, too, to teams that, made me have them in question at this point. When I looked up, I've seen Texas was all over those guys. I like the fact that Archie Manning is looking at it and he feels like, man, we still got a lot to play for. He had 179 yards, a touchdown, and he scored a touchdown on the ground that sealed the deal. What I seen too was Quinjavion Weisner, the running back, was a really good ground and pound running back that helped them stay in the game and kept them close. And not only that, he made it easy for them, and he was always getting them in the red zone. It seemed like with 155 yards on 19 carries. I didn't really see much from Marcel Reed. I was somewhat disappointed, and be honest with you. Marcel Reed had 180 yards and two interceptions. That's what hurt them. And then on the ground, he had 12 carries for 71 yards. I mean, he was trying to do too much. Sometimes when you're struggling like that, you try to run and make moves with your legs. But I think on this end, I believe that Archie Manning had the advantage versus Marcel Reed. And I have to give credit where credit is due. That defense kept him basically at bay in this game. It wasn't really too much going on outside of that. The tight end played really well too for Texas. Jack injuries, he just seemed like he was everywhere and he was catching, footballs that mattered in the game, got them some crucial first downs. The running back, he did good as far as when Weisner got the ball, he was getting some good yards to keep the actual sticks moving and took some time off the clock. Didn't really give a lot of time for Texas A&M. They had their chances. It was just they struggled. That stifling defense of Texas, you see them and sometimes you be like, this is possibly the best defense in the game right now. And then some games they don't play as well. But in this game, when it's a rivalry too, you got to throw everything out the window. Number 3, Texas A&M fell to number 16, Texas, and that final score was 27-17. Very good contest. Georgia Tech was a pretty good game too. I just feel like Georgia Tech constantly comes up short. Number 4 Georgia basically was in and they had a handful. Most of these contests wasn't too easy neither. And number 23 Georgia Tech just couldn't put enough on paper. And I feel bad too because I believe that the quarterback played well. Heinz King had 181 yards. He had a pick on the day and he had 10 carries for 39 yards. Gunnar Stockton didn't do a lot neither. And that's one thing people question Gunnar Stockton and would he be able to step up in a big game? He had just enough in this game to beat Georgia Tech because Georgia Tech always gets so close. They just can't get over that hump against Georgia. But when I look at this game, Gunnar Stockton had a touchdown with 70 yards and an interception, so he didn't really do as much. But then you look at Nate Frazier on the ground, he had 108 yards on 16 carries, which kind of held them and kept them in this game. Besides that, Zachariah Branch, he had 53 yards on 5 receptions in the score. It wasn't really too much going on. It was just a back and forth game of field goals. And, that touchdown settled everything in this game. But it was a very close contest. Like I said, it was closer than what you look at. If they didn't get that touchdown, then I think that it possibly could have went the other way. But at the end of the day, I look at it and I feel like Georgia Tech just still got a lot more to do as far as recruiting and trying to get that team together and to try to face Georgia next year, because they were so close the last 2 years and they just couldn't get over that hump. So let's see what they can do next season. That final score was 16-9. This was a game right here that I always thought was going to be a close one, but I was just surprised the way it ended. Arizona and Arizona State. You just never know what Arizona State team you're going to get this year. They dropped 4 games, but then they dropped some crucial games, and then they won some big games. So you never know which team's going to show up. It's like, will the real Arizona State please stand up this year? I still know that they lost a lot last season, and they're a young team, and I only believe the sky's the limit and they're going to get better. But when I look at this, it's like, where are you guys at? Jeff Sims didn't step up. He was MIA, especially in this game. The MIA milk carton status was definitely official for this man. He had 114 yards, but 3 interceptions, and those costly interceptions as well. But then the kid Noah Fafita from Arizona, it just seems like he steps up in big games, and he always step up when you least suspect him. He had 286 yards and a touchdown in this contest, and he did enough for this team to technically blow out Arizona State, a team that I thought had a slight advantage. But every time when you count them out, Arizona, they seem like they come up with big wins. That final score was 23-7. Arizona, number 25, Arizona is 9-3. And Arizona State, number 20, Arizona State is 8-4. So that speaks volumes. I want to talk about the granddaddy of them all right now when it comes to competition and, big rivalry games. I want to start off right now and I want to talk about what happened in the Michigan game. The Michigan Ohio State game, it was actually looking pretty good for Michigan. It was like they got a field goal on their first drive. They got some momentum. Then in that second drive, they got a pick on sand. And after they got that pick, they kicked another field goal. They wasn't getting in the end zone. And that's what happened in this game. The red zone woes was coming up, and then the wide receiver play wasn't as well neither. When I look at it, they're going to definitely have to recruit better in that level. Bryce Underwood too. He's still young. He just got out of high school, and I didn't really expect for him to just go out and just torch Ohio State. Definitely didn't help too that he was having words with LeBron and told him it's over for Ohio State when he came to Michigan. People use that as bulletin board material. He had 63 yards, 8 of 18, and interception on the day. Jordan Marshall basically didn't look any better, too. Justice Haynes being out kind of hurt them, even though Jordan Marshall been playing good, but it wasn't good enough. 7 carries, 61 yards. And then you have the quarterback of Ohio State, Julian Sand. He had 233 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a pick earlier in the game, but that all definitely got cleaned up eventually. And then Bo Jackson, yes, the running back name is Bo Jackson on Ohio State. He had 22 carries, 117 yards. And Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State, had 5 receptions and he had a touchdown on 82 yards. Now, I didn't think Michigan was just going to go and just blow out Ohio State. I figured that this game that they had our number, because last year we definitely didn't expect, for a lot of people didn't expect for Michigan to go in there in Ohio State and beat them. They had a really sound run game. They didn't really do too much passing and pass when it was necessary. But at the same time, at the end of the day, they pulled it out, and I didn't think that was possible. I still felt this way this year, but with the rivalry games, you can throw the actual score, points, rankings, anything out the window, because you never know what'll happen in those games. It seemed like with teams, especially like us, who that looked at it like, if we don't win this game, we wouldn't go into one of the playoff spots. So we had to play. But it was just, I felt like Sharon Moore and his offense was a little too vanilla. The defense, didn't play that bad, but then they wore out because they was on the field so much. I just didn't feel like the effort was there. But at the same time, I'm not trying to make any excuses. We know all the things that happened with, us and, a lot of the bands and the recruits issues we have now for what happened in the Jim Harbaugh era. We know a lot of those penalties and things that we're facing. We're going to have a tough time, and for the next year or so. But I still feel like within this next year or two, Michigan will be back as one of those powerhouse teams. I still don't feel like they had a bad season this season with everything going on. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Ohio State is number one in the country for a reason. That defense was really good and the offense played well when they needed to. What makes this stings a little bit more is not the fact that I dislike Ohio State, because I don't. I have respect in that organization and that team. Is the fact that the pencil, Matt Patricia's over there. He couldn't do anything with our Lions and just messed up that team really bad. And he go to Ohio State, and then, give us one of worst whippings that we had in a while to Ohio State at home. So yeah, that was like something that I couldn't digest well. Had to give credit where credit is due. Like I said, they're number one for a reason. That final score was 27-9, and we just got to go to a bowl game and try to hit the reset button. We had a 4-game win streak, and now that came to an end. And hey, we just got to figure out what we got to do next season with the recruits and the things we had and the violations in the past too. I said with the Jim Harbaugh era, we got to figure out how to do some things. We got a lot of good recruits still coming in, and 5-star, 4-star recruits. We just got to make the best out of it. Moving on, LSU, Oklahoma. That was a really close contest. Too close for comfort. I didn't think that was going to end up being as close as it was. They took John Mateer at the end of the game to make a miracle to win that game. When you look at the stats, it wasn't really much going on in that game. At one point, John Mateer was looking really bad, like this game was going to be a blowout, but they came back and persevered. So I give credit where credit's due with Oklahoma. That defense kept them into this game, and that's what's so dangerous about them now. If John Mateer is playing on his game and he plays clean, that defense is going to do what they need to do. Oklahoma didn't have both, and now they do. They have more of a better defense than offense, but like I said, John Mateer had 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had 3 picks on the day. With LSU, Michael Van Buren, he had 96 yards, a touchdown, and an INT. But their defense kept them in this game as well. That's what I would like to say, because LSU definitely stepped up. Xavier Thomas didn't do much with the receptions. He had 3 receptions, but he had a touchdown in this game. The star of the game was Isaiah Centegna. He had 9 receptions, 121 yards, and he had a score on the day. Did seal the deal, and that final score was 17-13. That was one of those games that was on upset alert. I want to talk about this game too for my family's sake. The Iron Bowl, this was a close one. A lot of people said that this game was a lot of touchy-feely calls and a lot of things that happened, and they didn't think that it was really something that they too much cared about. They felt like it was pro Alabama in this one. And you heard the trash talking a lot of things that was going on. I was looking at ESPN. I was on Instagram and some of the social media sites. And one of the things I was concerned with is when they said, oh, they gave them a call, that they felt like that wasn't fair. When is going after quarterback knees? Literally, he was on the ground and, tackle low for the knees. I didn't know that was legal. I'm just throwing that out there. People were upset about that and said, that wasn't right that they gave them that call. And I said, man, so hurting players is something that we like to do now. And then you seen that it happened on a pro level. And then it went down to the collegiate level that you can't go for the legs. And I think people were upset with that call. They were upset with several calls in that game. Alabama definitely struggled, but it seems like that Alabama Auburn contest, that Iron Bowl, always get the best out of both teams. And right now, This was more or less Auburn's championship game because we knew with their record that was 5-6 that they wasn't going to be able to make it to the playoffs. So this was like win, and it was a victory for them because they would have put Alabama out. When I seen the score and I seen the contest, Ashton Daniels looked pretty sharp on the day. He had 259 yards. He had a touchdown, but he had a pick on the day. But then on the ground, he had 23 carries for 108 yards as well. Malcolm Simmons, the wide receiver, had 3 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown. That guy's a speedster. Every time they threw it to him, it was 50, 60-yard bombs. And that's why he only had 3 receptions for 143 yards. Tyson Simpson didn't really do as much as I thought he would, but at the same time, Ty Simpson, let me get it right. Let me abbreviate it and put it like they have it. So Ty Simpson, I didn't really expect that much from him this season. This season, I thought that he was going to be average at best. I was surprised that Alabama got as many wins as they did because we didn't see this Ty Simpson last season. When they gave him the opportunity and put him in the driver's seat, he didn't do nothing whatsoever. This year, he looked poised and he played really good when they needed him to in clutch moments. He had 122 yards. It wasn't really like overbearing for you when you seen what he had as far as passing yards, but he had 3 touchdowns, and that's what mattered. And what I seen in this game too was Jam Miller did a little better on the ground game with 15 carries, 83 yards. They needed all that from him as well. But the sad part was when I seen this game, the red zone specialist in this game that helped carry Alabama to this victory was Isaiah Horton. He had 5 receptions, 35 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So whenever they needed an open player to score or make a big play, it was Isaiah Horton. And he ended up being an X factor in this game because it was tied. And I remember when this game was tied, I said, okay, are they going to, settle for a field goal or are they going to go for the win? And there was the 4th and 6 play when Isaiah Horn ended up scoring at the end, and that was a clutch moment for Alabama. I was telling people this season, give my man Kayla DeBoer a chance to, install his offense and defense and get his recruits and his people that he was trying to get in. Because for the most part, last year he was playing with some of Saban fellas. Once he get everything together and start installing his offense and getting his defense and getting his recruits, because they say he's a really good recruiting agent when it comes to recruiting talent too as well. I wanted to see what they can do. It came a year a little early for me. And I had to give credit where credit is due because in this game, Alabama, last season definitely looked like they would have been a team that dropped the ball. No disrespect. I didn't really have faith in the quarterback, and no disrespect in Jalen Milroe, but that's facts. That final score was 27-20, and now Alabama goes to the championship game to face Georgia yet again, and I will be definitely giving my predictions. One of the games I seen too was the SMU California game. Number 21 SMU this whole season, we didn't know what they were going to be about, and that definitely proved it to me. Not saying that they're a bad team, but it was just SMU. I thought would have pulled this game out being ranked 21, but then California, has been playing really well as of late. And I think that this is a little momentum that they needed. When I seen the quarterback too, Kevin Jennings, I thought that he was going to step up in this game. Kevin Jennings from SMU had 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Jawan Kawi Sagapolate, I really can't really say that name for you guys, to be honest. Sagapalutale. Okay, I probably did it a little better. Don't really want to butcher this man's good name, but he had a game. He had a huge game, 330 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then you had Kendrick Raphael, the running back, with 33 carries, 111 yards, and a touchdown. He was good on the ground for Cal. SMU had a pretty good run game, and Chris Johnson Jr. too. He had 128 yards and a touchdown. And I just really felt like this was a strong back and forth contest. Jacob DeJesus, the wide receiver for California had 12 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. And then you had Matthew Hibner, the tight end for SMU, who had 5 receptions, 87 yards, and a score. I'm not really dissing SMU, just felt like they would have been playing better, especially in a game like this when competition is something that you really need to show your dominance on. But any given Saturday and Friday at this moment in college is what's been going on and what's been heavy on display, because there's some weird games that I'm going to talk about too in the NFL when I talk about that shortly too. But it was just strange to see a lot of these teams, non-ranked teams, stepped up for the moment. Like you say, when it comes to the competition and when it comes to playing in these bowl games or these rivalries, and when it's like a team that you're familiar with, they step up to the occasion. This was Cal's playoffs right here, because they'll definitely still be eligible for a bowl game. But the contest ended 38-35, and it was an upset over SMU. Some of the games wasn't even really meant to be talked about. Like number two, Indiana blew out Purdue 56-3. And then you had number seven, Ole Miss, win 38-19. Utah stepped up and won against Kansas, which was a really good game. Number 13, Utah won 31-21. And then you had Texas Tech just really beat the brakes off of West Virginia 49-0. Oregon, number six, Oregon won against Washington 26-14. So, you had some close games. Number nine, Notre Dame ran through Stanford 49-20. And UCF lost to number 11 BYU like I thought they would, 41-21. You had Miami, number 12 Miami beat number 22 Pitt 38-7. And Vandy looked really sharp in this contest, beating number 19 Tennessee 45-24. So yeah, you had some games that didn't have parity. It was just blowouts from the beginning. And then you had some games that were pretty close that I wanted to discuss. I want to get into week 15. Well, week 13 aftermath in the NFL. My apologies. Wasn't really too happy with the Thanksgiving games and want to start off first and say, with the Detroit Lions right now, their playoff hopes is in their own hands. This was one I thought that they would step up to the occasion and try to win this one at home, even though it was still a good game. Some questionable calls in this contest, but I don't want to use that as an excuse, because we always use a questionable contest to say this is the reason the team lost. I feel like that O-line for the Lions is not really good. They're banged up and there's a lot of injuries, and the next man up is not stepping up. Let's be honest. Then you have it where it definitely don't help that we have defensive players now, like Tyrion Arnold's going to be out for the season. Don't know what's going to happen with Kirby Joseph right now. Yeah, he's practicing, but we don't know if he's at full capacity. So I wouldn't be surprised if he don't play this Thursday. The protection for Jared Goff hasn't been good. And then, when he's not, to the point where he's comfortable, he panic. And you could definitely see it in his game. Jahmyr Gibbs did what he could, but he could only do so much. I like Jamison Williams. He played pretty good in this game, dropped some crucial balls, though. But then at the same time, you got to give credit where credit is due. Green Bay already had a decent team. They did one thing to make them go over the top. They said, okay, we need a playmaker. What they did was they got Micah Parsons, and that's their difference maker. He's been, disruptive on defense, giving us fits in the interior, and he moves around, so you never know where he's going to be. A lot of teams had that opportunity to go for him, but yet Green Bay Packers did, and this is why they're playing so dominant right now. We have a guy, a big name guy, who supposedly got some money on this offseason. Has been MIA this season ever since he got his bag. A la, if you want me to say his name, Aiden Hutchinson. Yes, he just came off of a horrible injury and he recovered well. But at the same time, they're paying him to be a game disruptor and to play well and to do the things that Micah Parsons is doing. He just haven't lived up to that expectations quite yet. I'm looking at it and I'm feeling like right now we have some issues. A lot of people are saying, man, because of the fact that we lost Ben Johnson, those guys are looking sharp over there in Chicago right now. A lot of people think it's smoke and mirrors. It doesn't matter because of the fact Chicago's playing at a high level. They don't have a lot of injuries, but at the same time, give credit where credit is due. They're clicking on all cylinders. Like I said, I'm giving credit to the Green Bay Packers. They had a game plan to make sure that Jameer Gibbs didn't beat them. They did just that. Jamison Williams played well, but other than that, we even had an Isaiah Tesla touchdown. Of course, we had lost Amon-Ra St. Brown in the game with a sprained ankle, and he might be out for the next 2 games. So it's really about to get touchy-feely right now because I'm questioning the chances of us even making the playoffs right now. And I'm just being honest as a fan and as a person who's going to face reality at this point. With all those injuries, it hurts us, and it came back to Hunter's last season, even though the record didn't reflect that. We were one and done in the playoffs. And then I will see if we did make the playoffs, which is highly to the point where it's up to them right now. I'm not going to say it's unlikely, but it's up to the fellas. I'm not really sure about this one, you guys. I have my doubts. Jordan Love had 234 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he threw some bombs to people too. The one guy who's the player of the game to me was wide receiver Wicks. Dontavion Wicks had 6 receptions, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And they caught really big plays when they needed to and was clutch to win the game. Some of the things that I looked at was questionable is when they were given the timeouts when those time delays was up because when those happened, that's supposed to win turnover on downs, and we should have had a chance at the end, but the referees gave it to them. So I can't even really question that too much. Josh Jacobs had 83 yards on the ground with 17 carries. Micah Parsons had 2.5 sacks. I mean, he was everywhere. And that team just basically got us and took us and basically gave us a run for our money. Jared Goff had 256 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I said, Jameer Gibbs had 20 carries, 68 yards, and Jamison Williams had 144 yards on 7 receptions and a touchdown. So he played pretty good despite the drops. I still feel like right now our destiny is in our own hands. And so far, so good. I don't really too much know about our chances right now in the playoffs. Missing Amon-Ra, and other guys gonna have to step up. But will they? I wouldn't lose no sleep and wouldn't be upset. Yeah, I'd be disappointed if we don't make the playoffs. But still, I feel like with the team we have now and where we was before, I'll take that any day. Moving on, that final score was 31-24, and it was still a really good Thanksgiving contest. Dallas Cowboys, on the other hand, that's who I was looking at very closely to see what was going to happen with them in Kansas City. And Dallas Cowboys been clicking at the right time. Dak Prescott had 320 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a pick on the day. Patrick Mahomes really looked sharp in this game, 261 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's starting to get those guys back healthy, and they basically proved it as well. Rashee Rice had 92 yards on 8 receptions and 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb had 7 receptions, 112 yards, and a touchdown. And Jadeveon Clowney showed up in this game with 2 sacks. That final score went down to the very end, and it was 31-28. And Dallas Cowboys will be coming to Detroit, and that's something right now that I can definitely say I'm a little concerned about right now. Bengals and Ravens. Thought this was going to be a better contest, but the Ravens got blew out in this game. Lamar Jackson had 246 yards and an interception. Joe Burrow had 261 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns on the day. Chase Brown looked good on the ground, 15 carries, 78 yards, but Jamar Chase had 110 yards on 7 receptions. Isaiah Likely played pretty good, 95 yards on 5 receptions. Derrick Henry had 60 yards on 10 carries on the score as well. But you could tell Lamar Jackson definitely looked, stifled. Surprised that the Cincinnati Bengals defense stepped up and played so well. But at the same time, when it's your division rivals, you got to throw all that stuff out the window because it was a very good contest, better than what I expected. And at the end of the day, the Cincinnati Bengals got to give them credit for still staying in there. That final score was 32-14. I want to move on to the Black Friday game because this definitely has some good implications in it. And I know if they won this game, that it was going to be really close on what's going on right now in the NFC as far as when it came to the playoff seedings. What I looked at in this game was Caleb Williams didn't do much in the air. He was smart. He wasn't trying to play hero ball. He had 154 yards and a touchdown. He had a pick on the day, but at the same time, he had two battering rams. Swift had like 120 yards and a touchdown, and the kid Kyle Malunga had 22 carries, 130 yards, and a touchdown. They killed them on the ground game. And Cole Clement had three receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown. This game right here was a game I felt like A.J. Brown found himself, but everybody else was just kind of lost. I don't know if it was Jalen Hurts trying to satisfy his ego or what have you, but when you seen this game, it just didn't seem right. Jalen Hurts had 230 yards, two touchdowns, and he had a pick on the day. They stopped Saquon Barkley too, so neutralizing Saquon was one of the keys. 13 carries, 56 yards. AJ Brown, like I said, had a really good game, 132 yards on 10 receptions and two touchdowns, but it still wasn't enough. Chicago Bears, they stepped up. They got some good plays. They got a fumble and an interception and went back for points. That final score was 24-15. Like I said, people think that this is a Chicago Bears team with smoke and mirrors, but they do what it takes to win. I look at them and I say, man, that's why this road is not going to be so easy for us moving forward, the Detroit Lions right now. Our destiny is in our own hand, and I'm looking at it more than likely like, yeah, man, with all these injuries and things that's going on, we might have bit off more than we could chew. The 49ers versus the Browns was a blowout victory. That final score was 26-8. Don't really want to get into that. I mean, that was it. It was like all San Francisco. Jacksonville Jaguars won 25-3. It was all Jacksonville. I mean, they're playing the Titans, what you expect. This was a game right here that I want to really talk about right here. Houston Texans going into Indianapolis Colts. A lot of people might look at it and say, well, those guys are exposed right now, the Colts. But what I'm looking at is you have a team that's on clicking on all cylinders at the right time. CJ Stroud came back, even though Davis Mills held down the fort when he was gone and won three straight. And you have the best defense right now in the NFL who stepped up and just basically did what they do best. They caused a lot of confusion and they did their job. CJ Stroud had 276 yards and an interception. Daniel Jones played decent, 201 yards and two touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor wasn't the X factor as he usually is, 21 carries, 85 yards. Nico Collins did what he usually do, five receptions, 98 yards. He didn't get in the end zone. But Alec Pierce had four receptions, 78 yards in the score as well. That final score, it was too close for comfort, but then it was a really good game. The Houston Texans ended up winning this game, and that final score was 20-16 and a close one. It was a really good contest. The Dolphins beat the Saints. I mean, that one was a really wasn't a great game, but I have to give credit where credit is due. Tyler Shaw looked really good in this game, 239 yards and two touchdowns. Devon Achane was the difference maker in this one. Achane had 22 carries, 134 yards in the score. That final score was Miami ended up winning 21-17 against the New Orleans Saints. This was the game right here that surprised me. The Falcons versus the New York Jets. This was a head scratcher game for me because I definitely thought that the Falcons would play better. The Jets did everything they could to crawl their way back into this contest. And the Falcons seemed like at the end, that last drive, they didn't have it in them, which I was surprised. It wasn't really that much time left, neither when they gave the ball back to the Jets. The Jets are basically starting to realize and starting to believe in their coach, Aaron Glenn, and they basically showed a lot of grit in this game. Tyron Taylor had 172 yards in the score. Kirk Cousins didn't really look that sharp, even though he had 234 yards and a touchdown. Bijan Robinson kept him in his game with 23 carries, 142 yards, and the score. Brees Hall had 68 yards on 19 carries and a touchdown as well. But the kid that they got when they did the trades from the Jets, Adonai Mitchell, he had 8 receptions, 108 yards, and a touchdown. He looked pretty good in his game. That final score came down to the very last minute and a field goal from the New York Jets, 27-24. This was the shocker game right here. The Rams and the Carolina Panthers. You never know which Carolina Panther team you're going to get one week to another. They didn't play that bad against San Francisco, but they let San Francisco run all over them. And I'm thinking, okay, this is Matthew Stafford, supposedly the best team in the NFC. That's where the parity comes in this year. Wasn't the case. Carolina Panthers at home been on a whole nother level. Matthew Stafford had 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks on the day. Bryce Young had 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. Blake Corum looked pretty good in this game, too. 7 carries, 81 yards in the score. Chuba Hubbard had 83 yards on 17 carries. The player that surprised me in this game was Jalen Coker. They had a mismatch in this game against Emmanuel Forbes, and they exposed it. He had 4 receptions, 74 yards in the score. The cost the Rams this game was when Matthew Stafford tried to scramble, and it was a strip sack. They got the ball, drove it down the field, and then once they got the ball back, Carolina Panthers didn't give it back. They let the time run out, and they won that game. Credit where credit is due. Like I said, you never know which Carolina Panther team you're going to get, but you had that ferocious team that, always comes out when you least suspect. That final score was 31-28. With that being said, that's why the Bears right now are the number one team in the NFC when it comes to playoff rankings by the strength of schedule. Then you had a game with the Arizona Cardinals in Tampa Bay. Wasn't the best game, but I mean, Jacoby Brissett's been playing really well for the Arizona Cardinals. He had 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick on the day. Baker Mayfield had 194 yards in the score. Bucky Irvin, welcome back. He had 61 yards on 17 carries in the score. And Trey McBride on the Arizona Cardinals had 8 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Chris Godwin came back and had 3 receptions on 78 yards. And that final score was the Buccaneers ended up pulling off a close one against the Arizona Cardinals to keep their playoff hunt alive. That final score was 2017. The Vikings and Seahawks, I'm not going to really talk about that game. The Seahawks just manhandled them in this game, and they blanked them on the scoreboard. I felt bad because it was a backup quarterback who I didn't think who was ready to play in the NFL right now. And when I seen Mac Brosmer, I definitely felt that way. 126 yards, 4 interceptions, that speak volumes. That final score was Seattle defense really held the fort in this game, and it was 26-0. The Las Vegas Raiders versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm just gonna say the score in this one. Unfortunately, Justin Herbert hurt his hand. I'm not sure if he'll be playing, but Lord forbid if they have to start Trey Lance this next game. That final score was 31-14. Chargers. The Bills and Steelers game wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Aaron Rodgers ended up getting hurt. Mason Rudolph got in the game, but that didn't matter. That final score was 26-7. The Broncos and the Commanders was actually a really good contest, you guys. This was one that I didn't think was going to be that good, but it went down to the wire. I thought at one point that this was going to be the game that the Washington Commanders solidified themselves with, even though with Jaden Daniels being hurt. Marcus Mariota had 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He had 10 carries for 55 yards, too. Zach Ertz had 10 receptions for 106 yards. Evan Ingram stepped up in this game, too, for the Broncos, 6 receptions and 79 yards. The running back in this game, R.J. Harvey, had 13 carries, 35 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That was kind of weird, those stats. But Bo Nix had 321 yards, a touchdown too as well. They haven't been lighting up on the scoreboard like you think they would. Definitely with the Sean Payton, who's supposed to be the quarterback guru. They haven't been doing anything consistently over there. I expected a little bit more, but then Cortland Sutton seemed like he's MIA. They don't have a Jerry Judy. They need more weapons on that offense because they've been looking quite pedestrian. I still feel like if Nick Bonito didn't get that swat at the end of the game, that game would have been over and Washington would have won with the 2-point conversion. I still give credit where credit is due with Washington doing that such a ballsy play because I thought that they was going to settle and go into overtime. No, they wanted to end it right then and there. So win or loss in that situation, man, you still got to give credit where credit is due. And I appreciate and I applaud the efforts. I want to move on now, and I want to get to the NCAA football, and I want to get to the championship weekend games. Friday game, December the 5th, North Texas versus Tulane. I'm going to go with Tulane at home, 2.5. Number 11, BYU versus Texas Tech. I don't think it's going to change. I believe it's going to be Texas Tech winning at home, and I'm going to give them a 12.5-point favor. Number 4, Georgia versus number 10, Alabama. They have Georgia by 2.5. I'm not saying that with my family present and listening to this contest. I'm going to go with Alabama winning at home in this one because they seem like they always had a way with Georgia. Number 2, Indiana versus number 1, Ohio State. They give Ohio State 4.5. I'm going to go under that, but I'll still go at Ohio State at home. Don't count out Indiana because I still feel like this game could go either way. And Duke versus number 18, Virginia. I'm going to go with Virginia, and I'll take them with the 3.5 points on this one. And now I want to get into the NFL predictions. Week 14, you got the Detroit Lions, the Dallas Cowboys at Detroit Lions. I'm going to go even with this one. I know people like, what you mean even, Hugh? I don't really know if we got enough to really beat Dallas right now. If you want me to be bold, I'll go Dallas, and I'll take the 3.5 points for Dallas in this case, if you want me to be honest right now. Dolphins versus Jets. I'll take the Jets on this one in an upset, and I'll give them the 2.5 points. Steelers and Ravens. I'm going to go with the Ravens because the Steelers are banged up, and I don't trust Mason Rudolph. But these are the games the Steelers normally win. I'm going to go with the Ravens, and I'm going to go under the 6 points that they're giving them. The Saints and Buccaneers. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the 8.5. Colts versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. They gave Colts 1.5-point favor. I'm gonna go with the Jaguars. I'm gonna give them that point spread instead. Tennessee Titans versus the Browns. I'm gonna go with the Browns, and I'm gonna take the 4.5 points. Washington Commanders versus the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders, and I'll take the 1.5. Seattle Seahawks versus the Falcons. I'm going to go with the Seahawks on the road in the 7.5-point favor. Bengals, Buffalo. I'm going to go with Buffalo, but I'm going to go under the 6-point spread. Broncos and the Raiders. I'm going to go with the Broncos, and I'm going to take the 7.5. Bears and Packers. This is a good one right here. I'm going to go with the Packers at home, but I'm going to go under that spread. I'm going to get them a 3.5 set for the 6.5-point favor because this was definitely one I believe the Bears can win. Rams versus Cardinals. I'm going to go with the Rams, and I'm not going to go with the 8.5 points because it's going to be a little closer. I think that the Rams might be pissed and take it out on them, but I still think it's going to be a close contest. Houston Texans and the Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans on the road to just give Patrick Mahomes more than he can handle. And I'm going to give a 3.5-point favor to the Houston Texans. And then you got the Eagles and the Chargers. I'm going to go with the Chargers in this one because I don't know. The Eagles haven't shown me enough this year, and I'm going to give them the 2.5-point favor. I'd like to say thank you all who chime in and listen to the show, who check me out on YouTube and look at the promos and the things that we've been working on. We're going to be pretty busy. I know in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we might not do a show. It depends on what day. I think Christmas is on the Thursday, so I'm not sure that we'll be doing the show, the Guru Sports Session. I'll definitely keep in touch with the co-host and see what he want to do at that time, which I believe is more than likely that won't happen. But here's the ways you guys can reach out to me as far as my social medias. You can reach out to me and you can get with me on Instagram. That's Hoovy, WHOOVI. Sports Guru to You is on Facebook, where I put all my posts, the breaking news and information, like I did with the Frank Ragnow being injured and won't be able to come back this season and possibly might not come back next year too. And Hugh Lee dot six, Hugh dot Lee six is my TikTok page where I put a lot of information, my promos, and put highlights and different things of all the sports around the leagues, like NFL, NBA, etc. I appreciate you guys, and I like to say thank you once again. I hope you guys are having a good holiday. Stay blessed, and like we always say, don't stress. Let the Lord handle the rest. Until next week.